So yeah, Cubbie, you know we're going to be live here in just a second, right, Cubbie? Uh-huh. You're what? You're not coming. Well, who's going to be the good-looking one on tonight's show? Who's going to be the one giving all the good answers to the questions on tonight's show? Dan is? Oh, he's the one. He's the talent anyway. That's right. We'll let him do tonight's show, and I'll just sit here and smile. That's a great idea, Cubbie. Thanks. We're live, Dan.
I love how you didn't even say go. I love how you didn't even say go.
Go.
Everybody, welcome. It's Monday night, and apparently everything's on me tonight. So
yeah, I'm pretty much
because Cubbie is just being mean and like rubbing elbows with the rich and famous. Is that what it is?
I'm guessing. Yeah, he's like, I don't need to talk to you guys anymore because I'm like the schnizzle. There you go. I just gotta use that. You know, that just makes me sound young and hip and fun, right? No.
Snoop Dogg's got nothing on you, John.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. We old guys all stick together. So yeah, Cubbie's working. We're not going to get into too much of that because I think it's going to be kind of a cool story to talk about next on one of our future shows, whether that's next week or whatever. But yeah, Cubbie's not with us tonight. So Dan, it's our night to find a topic. We've got lots of things we're going to talk about, none of which are planned, which is always kind of cool. First off,
yeah, I was gonna say you didn't tell me anything tonight.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, beyond that, it was a very mentally draining day at the post office. But that's another story for another day. So first off, before we go too terribly far, did you get you were busy with getting the kids taken care of and such. I just got done talking to Joe Casillas, and he's got a really kind of a cool little system that he's building that incorporates our favorite little mixers that we use for ceremony. And he's making a little ceremony case, for lack of a better way to describe it, that has your iPad mounted in it. It has that. It can have wireless microphones. It can have a variety of different things. The connections are all there. So you get this really, really clean look from the front. And as we're kind of talking about and looking at that, it's like this is something that Dan and I've talked about numerous times. Is the idea of having a ceremony thing here. And actually, Dan, what I'm going to do is I'll send this over to you because there's one of them.
Sure.
There's one of them that I want to have you pop up and to show because it's one of those things that when you find something that's really kind of cool, some of the stuff back in the day, we used to find these unique things in the back of the Mobile Beat magazine. They were something back in that realm, and you'd be like, oh wow, look at this neat little thing. Or at DJ Expo, you'd find it in the back, the back hallway that somebody was sharing things. So scroll down because that shows basically one of the units right there. Is it's all in a road case, but I wanted to keep. We'll go a little farther down because I think he had one on a table. Yeah, right there. That black one on the right there. So it basically can be this little tabletop system, and he's making a stand for it. And he has a lot of different things because it's kind of in a I don't want to say prototype world, but he's in a customizing world with that. But it's this neat little case that just as it cleans up that look. I don't know if there's any more pictures, but if you go up and you can see one side by side with a DJ podium right there.
Yeah, right there we go.
Yeah. So, even if it's sitting on a tabletop, it's just cleaned up that look of having a small external mixer and the iPad. And
man, where was this thing like 6 months ago?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like this is just a neat little thing. And if you scroll down just a smidge there, Dan, there you can see the connections right there. All the connections that you need in the front. So it's from the guest perspective, it's clean and it looks nice. So in our situation, what I was talking to Joe about it is that Nicholas likes to use the iPad to run lighting and things. So you'd be able to have that in a nice case that'll sit on our table because he uses a fast set table with a cloth, and then he'd be able to have that on there. It would look professional. It would look clean. Mm-hmm. And then if for some reason the main DJ controller or we had something go out, it's literally make a couple of quick connections, and the party could be back up and running in seconds, as opposed to something, having to, I got to go out to the truck now and go get the other DJ controller. There wouldn't be any of that. So it would be that ceremony system, backup system, but it would give you that clean look. So that was kind of a neat thing that he was sharing with us tonight in our first show.
So many thoughts right now of seriously, 6 months ago, not even 6 months ago.
Yeah, because we were over the fall and winter. We've kind of been talking about that.
I built my new system. I built my new ceremony system.
Yeah. Oh, and he's talking that he's implemented wire. Again, it's customizable, so but that you can have wireless HDMI in there, so you can transmit out to receivers and on TVs that can pick up that signal. Wireless microphones can do a variety of things with that. He's used it for gobos, the motion gobos with the wireless HDMI. So, yeah, that was kind of a neat little thing. And of course, his whole story. He's been in the industry a little bit longer than I have, so it's kind of neat to hear the stories of how people got into the whole DJ world. So yeah, if you guys want to watch that video, that's the one just ahead of this one in the playlist. Otherwise, you can just go check out Joe Casillas, his video. So
there we go.
Yeah, neat stuff.
Very nice. That is, and I like how clean that is. I mean, especially with the controls coming off the front. You've got, or your side, like everything just drops down nice and hidden.
Yeah. And that was something, Jimmy DePalma, our good friend there, who is no longer with us, but that was something he enjoyed busting my chops with, is that keeping things clean. I would send him a picture and it would be like, oh, look at that cable, look at that wire, look at that. It's like, come on, dude, the lights are off. No one's seeing it but you, and you're only seeing it because you're looking for it, because you know that it's fun to bust my chops. Well,
but I will say this, like and this goes back to my radio days, because one of my very first things I ever did was like working remote broadcasts for on locations, right? Mm-hmm. So the very first time I set up, I was working with my program director, and he was like, no, we need to hide cables. Like, he taught me the benefit of hiding cables. And so ever since then, it was ingrained in my head. So it was something I carried over to my business, to the point that I try and hide cables as much as possible. That's why I love the podium setups. That's why I love, the all-in-one, rack mount boxes. Those of you that, piecemeal your stuff together every time you do an event, like you have a method to your madness. I get it, but I love that all-in-one type of rack, just whether it's big or whether it's the, the old 19-inch that we would carry around. Mm-hmm. Everything was contained. Yeah. And everything, having the fewest amount of cables running out, I think is the best that you can do.
And that's an area in which I struggle, because we have so many different, this week we need this, that week we need that, whatever. So there's so much flexibility that is needed, and it becomes, in my mind, a little difficult to commit to one system, because it's like, okay, so now what do I need to pull this out to put something in? Do I need to pull this apart because now I need 4 microphones instead of 3, or I need, or that 2 or whatever. So I found that I went to the local Maytag sales, and the washing machines, and they come in, they got these boxes. Well, if you cut the box just right, you can use it and you can just set it right in front. That's high class.
I'm gonna take it up a notch. Spray paint it black.
Oh, how will they ever see the Maytag though? They'll know that I'm a big deal because I've got Maytag.
Fair.
I mean, I'm just trying to get my money's worth out of that box.
Just trust me. A little spray paint.
It's a little spray paint. Well, I can dream. I can dream and dream big.
Yeah.
So, anything catch your eye this past week in the DJ world?
No, because I haven't really gotten a chance to look into the DJ world. So things have been a little crazy. Things have been a little busy. Like, I don't know about everybody else, but it always seems like the spring I have like this gradual ramp up of my business.
Yeah.
Like I'll have like, 1 or 2 type of events, maybe in April, and I'll kind of get my feet wet and I'll get into it. And then May will be a little bit more. And then by the time I get to June, like I'm ready, right? Like I've had that ramp up. This year it was like nothing. The last weekend of April, everything just hit all at once. I
Mm.
had my meetings for June. I had schools that were doing their events. I had a couple corporate type of events that were going out with some photo booths, and it was just like there was no ramp up this year. It was
Hmm.
just like it was when it smacked me, it was like, oh my gosh, like I tried to prepare for it, but I obviously didn't do that very well. And so as a result, it's just been I feel like I'm playing catch up this entire this entire month so far. And we're not even halfway through it.
Right.
So yeah.
So you've been out. You've been able to perform. First off, you did the adult prom. When did you guys do that?
That was the end of March.
So that was back a
That
little
was
bit.
the
So
end of
that was
March.
as close to a ramp up as you had then, basically.
Yeah. Well, but that is such a different type of event. A lot of you have heard me talk about this before, but it's this fundraiser that we do for the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. And it is something that my wife and I put on. We have a couple people that come on board as our volunteer coordinating people, and they kind of help with some of those aspects of it. But for the most part, it's my wife and I who do a lot of the planning process for it. Um, so I really don't think of the DJ side of that so much. One, because we've done it for so long that it's like, okay, I'm just gonna run with it. I don't have to worry about the latest music. I don't have to worry about, that track that came out 2 days ago. I just need to be able to come in and have my equipment set up and go.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's kind of like I focus on that in a different realm. So yes, there was a ramp up, but it's not like those events necessarily prepare me for the events that are coming.
Sure.
Outside of making sure nothing's broken, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like making sure the equipment's ready to walk out the door.
So really,
But
the equipment is about the only same. Yeah, because otherwise it's a completely different world.
yeah, and that's I mean that is the nice thing. There is some things that are the same. But even with that, like I had some equipment that was off being repaired, like we've talked about that.
Yep.
So I had to go back to, you know, I had to go back, I guess, if you will, in a generation of my lighting and going back to some of my older stuff because my current stuff was not there.
Yeah.
So I had to be like, so I didn't really even some of that was autopilot, right, from previous years.
Sure.
So yeah.
So as you're getting into the wedding season and such now, what have you seen any trends when you've had these conversations with couples and things of anything that's like, that's a little different going into 2025?
Not not really. It's still more of what we were seeing like edging up last year.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So last year we were seeing a lot of this, you know, I don't want formalities. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And so there's been a little bit more of a push, away from those pieces. I've got one this weekend who threw me for a loop because when we had our planning meeting, it was, yeah, I'm going to be dancing to the songs. Do you want anything done to it? No, no, we're okay. We went the regular thing. And then just this past weekend, they sent me the message and were like, "Oh yeah, by the way, you know how you offered to do something to the songs? Can you cut them down for us?" Now I
Mm-hmm.
probably can just fade them out and it won't be a big issue, and that's my backup plan. But I prefer to like throw them in an audio, take out a verse and a chorus, and then suddenly it's shorter.
Sure.
And so it begins the way you're used to, it ends the way you're used to, and you just think you heard the whole song. Um, that's the way I prefer it. So there's been more of that kind of a pattern that's continued. I will also say this is funny. So we had our Q&A the other week or whatever, and I was telling Cubbie this last week after we got off there. There was two questions in particular that came up in our Q&A night, and I had to laugh because then I had a meeting with a couple, and both of our questions came up during this meeting. One question was related to explicit music,
Mm-hmm.
and I almost think I kind of ticked off my bride a little bit because as we were talking, she she's well, we got this playlist. Okay, send it over. Like
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
problem.
Mm-hmm.
Well, just so you aware, we want you to see if you could make some kind of an announcement that this is going to be like an after party type of vibe.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay. And because the group's like, yeah, some of the songs are a little, and I said, just so you're aware, and like by that point I had the link and I kind of scrolling through. I said, just so you're aware, everything I have is at least radio edits.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean radio edits?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the subscription service I belong to, everything I have is clean. So you're
Yeah.
not going to hear the words you don't hear in the. Oh, Like you could just see the almost like the blood drain from her face.
Mm-hmm.
This was a couple that I was hired by a family member.
Oh,
It was
okay.
it was actually the groom's mother who I've known for years. She worked where our kids went to daycare, and so I've known her for years in that aspect. And so it was kind of through her that I got this wedding. I mean, they were on board, right? Like they interviewed me and everything else, but I really think it came down to the mom. Um, Music and that kind of conversation never came up.
Sure.
And I know this is some things some DJs do in that planning, in not that planning, but in their marketing meeting. Like if they have a line that they don't cross, they make it very well known.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking more and more I need to have that
That
in part of
discussion.
that initial conversation because I don't usually do that. I usually don't get into that at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I'm wondering if I need to. Now, as I continue to talk with them, listen, well, you're going to sing the words anyway. It's not like I'm not talking about like I'm not going to play the songs. I'm just talking about like you might not hear certain words that you're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And we're I smoothed it over and things went well. And then by the end of the meeting, they were laughing, everything was good. So I don't think long term, but it was one piece. The other part was about tips.
Mm.
We got to the end and they asked me, they're like, you know, just do we need to tip you? My response was I took Cubbie's words right from our Q&A of, you know, if you you paid a lot for my services. So everything is taken care of. However, if you feel that I went above and beyond in the services for your wedding and you would like to do some sort of a gratuity, it would be appreciated, but it is definitely not required nor expected.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know. We'll see. That wedding is mid-June.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see.
It'll
We'll
be
see what
interesting,
happens
yeah,
there.
to see what happens with that.
Yeah.
Getting back to your music, the music and such with that, had a similar discussions with couples over the years. And so this last winter, I've spent more time playing in a specific bar, and now I've got people who are coming up who have been seeing me there and are asking, and like, hey, would you do a wedding? And a couple of them have called and talked to us. The interesting thing is one of these songs that is big in this community, and it might be bigger. I literally never played it until I was in this bar. Is from Afroman. The song is called Colt 45 or Crazy Rap.
Okay.
So it's a nasty little song. There's no question about it. And there is an edited version of it out there that basically is half the words are gone. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the version that I played because they requested it, and that's the one I could find. And I played that one, and of course that was a bad thing. So in time, I found the other version of it, the actual version that they were after, that has the whole every word's there, and okay, it does its thing. And now they're like, this is going to be the version you play at our wedding. Okay, so this is if you aren't familiar with the song, look it up. It's Colt 45. There's a couple of you can find a different, but it's Crazy Rap. But Afroman is who does it. It's from 2023. And it is just a very sexually explicit song in what they're singing about. You're going to be playing this at our wedding. And that's not just from one person. This is from multiple couples that are, again, this is their song that they party to. I suppose it might have been the baby got back, from a different generation or, whatever. Yeah, it's interesting because they don't have any qualms about the idea of that's going to be played. And we're going to party to that one. So it'll be, as we continue to go forward, is that just a one-off as far as one song that's going to be that way for the night? Or is it going to be the assumption that every song we play is the explicit version and we're going to want multiple songs that would be offensive to a sensitive listening audience? I don't know. I mean, I've had it before where it's been a one-off. Okay, we realize, John, that you want to keep it clean, but there's a song and we need to have the actual version that says the F-bomb. Can you play that one? Well, if you guys really want it, it's not my preference, but I'll make an announcement beforehand and we'll play it and move on. Yep, we just need this one song. Everything else can be fine, but this one song. I just don't know if it's going to be just the one song like that, or if it's going to be like, oh, hey, let's get into that, that song and this song and that one and, you know, all these other rap songs. But we want the actual real version. We want to hear Lil Wayne talking about all that little stuff. So, I don't know.
It's interesting because I think back to I think back to my reviews over the years, and I still remember one review that I got a 4 out of 5 in flexibility
Mm-hmm.
because I wouldn't budge
On the music.
on a song. And
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of interesting. Like it was I have my own personal dilemma with that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, you know, this is not and we talked about this before. Like when I'm listening to my own music, like when I'm playing stuff, I don't play the explicit version.
Yep.
And if I'm listening to a mix, like, you know, we've talked about listening to mixes when we're out running. If I'm listening to a mix and there's an occasional explicit, all right, I'll get past it. But if it's explicit the entire time, I'm dumping out. I'm dumping out. I'm pulling over. I'm grabbing my phone while I'm trying to run, finding a different one on the
Yep.
list. That's the way that I don't know. That's the way that I am. That's the way that I feel. Um, and I really have to figure out, I guess, if this is going to be, as people have said, this seems to be more and more of, I don't want to say a trend, but more and more the norm with these couples, that either I'm going to have to have that conversation up front,
Mm-hmm.
or this will be the line that eventually pushes me out of the business.
Mm-hmm.
And I know some of you are like, why? It's just where I stand.
Yeah.
It's the line that I walk, and I feel, again, it's a representative of who I am, even though it comes from the couple, even though it's their choice. You know, we've often talked, you know, the person in the audience, yes, you can make the announcement that they know, you know, that all of tonight's songs and the versions you're hearing are compliments of, you know,
Mm-hmm.
Bobby and Susie. Do they hear that? Do they recognize it? Or is it until they hear the first song that is different than what they think should be played at a wedding, do they realize,
They're gonna hang
and they
you for
don't
it.
think it came from, yeah, they're going to
Yeah.
hate you for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And it kind of brings back to so Michael, my son Michael, has been doing a series called His Sermon from the Tracks. And for those of you who are not religious, you know, then bear with me here for a little bit. But basically, he's been taking every Tuesday or every Sunday and Wednesday, he's releasing a little 30-second, 60-second video, Bible verse, and then kind of interpreting it to, you know, applying it. And he was talking about actions, actions being in essence, honorable actions. I'm just going to, I'll take the faith part out of it, but basically that your actions should be honorable and something that you can be proud of, compared to having dishonorable actions that you would rather not anyone else know about, that it was that. And I think that really kind of translates back to this music situation, is that there are times I played things and it's like, I felt bad. I was embarrassed. You know, you're looking around the room and it's like, oh, there's still some people here. I don't want to be playing this song right now. And most of the time when I've gotten to that point and I've looked and it's like, can I please, if we're going to do it, let's do yes, as somebody mentioned in the chat, an after party or whatever it was. Can we do it later when the kids aren't around or grandma's not around or whatever it was? You know, trying to push it off. But there's been times I haven't, and those were moments where I wasn't proud of what I did, and I wasn't proud of my performance. It was, you know, embarrassed for what was going on and what was being out there, and you have relatives that were looking like, what am I hearing? Oh my God, you know, that kind of thing.
mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that we each have to weigh out. You know, where is that? What are we comfortable with? What are we going to being able to look back and be proud of and represent and say to our kids, family, spouse, friends, God, whatever, that, you know, hey, I did the honorable thing. And sometimes the two conflict a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think with some of our couples that really becomes, you know, even more so to the forefront. I mean, you know, and, you know, even you say, well, there's kids, you know, there's kids there. And for some of them, that doesn't matter.
Yep.
It doesn't, you know, it doesn't matter those types of pieces. And yeah, it becomes very difficult. It becomes very, I don't know, frustrating, I guess, at times,
Mm-hmm.
just to kind of have that. and have that be there and not know really how to walk that line because you didn't lay down the groundwork in the first place or to really feel that in the right way.
And there have been numerous times where we've had that discussion in advance, and they're like, "Yeah, that one song I really want it," and then they bring it up and say, and it's like, take a look at the room. How would you feel if this group of people heard that song? Oh yeah, I don't want to do that right now because of X, Y, and Z. Those folks over there. That would be. I don't want to represent myself to those people that way. Okay, let's look at it later. Half the time, it gets pushed off completely because somebody in the room, and they are sober enough to think about it, and in the moment where they see these people and realize that, okay, now if I'm going to be playing crazy rap and Afro Man's going to be singing about all these different sexual exploits he has, I've got my coworkers that respect me who are here, and they're going to be like, what? That kind of a thing. Or my aunts and uncles are all still here, and they're going to be like, you requested this song? What's up with? So most of the time they change their mind, and many times it's the night of that they will change their mind. Not all the time, but I would say most. If it's 20% of the time I end up playing the song, that would be probably high.
I think the problem that I have with it is what about it is so needed. I guess I'll put right like you're telling me you're not going to be able to have the same amount of a good time with an edited version as you are, the explicit. Like that's the part that sometimes I go, really? Like there's a couple songs out there where I could, I would still be, embarrassed to be a fan of type of thing. But there's a couple songs out there where I could go, okay, I get it, because the clean is so incredibly diced up and so incredibly censored that it doesn't even feel like it's the same song.
Yeah.
Okay. Still don't necessarily agree with it, but I can get that. But when it's everything else, like I will say, like there's been a couple songs where I was so used to the clean version, and the clean version was so, I'll say, well done that I didn't know that there was certain tracks in there or certain words that were in there. And then I was listening to it on Spotify or someplace where I don't even remember where, and I heard that I had to do a double take. Like I don't remember that word being in there. And it was to the point that it was like legitimately where I was just like, and I went back and listened, and I'm like, I still don't. Yeah, that's okay. There's where the word would have been, but man, I did not know it was missing anything. Like, just I don't know. And some of you are probably watching, going, man, these guys are old.
No, I think just reading some of the chat and such, if you're able to follow that a little bit, but I think a lot of folks are in the same boat, that they want to have a show that is family friendly and respectable and things, and maybe that is going to be a changing thing, and our potential audience may become smaller because there not as many people are feeling the way we are, and that's I guess if that's it at the end of the day, so be it.
But I will say this, and this is one of the things that I think kind of surprised me in some aspects, right? Like I've heard people talking about this, where the couples are insisting it more and more. And I just hadn't run into that. In fact, I was getting the opposite, even as up to last year, where couples were stopping, as we were getting ready in that planning stage, and was just like, listen, I just want to clarify, everything that you have is going to be clean, right? And yeah, absolutely. Like we're okay if the content is, whatever, but we just want to make sure, like, so it's kind of funny that it's been more, like there's been more that have checked for that way than the other way.
Right.
But I do wonder if because sometimes our area can be behind those other areas, if what people were seeing last year, the year before, with this bigger trend with the couples is starting to filter in, or if it just happens to be more of a unique situation here. But I'd need to be prepared either way.
Yeah. That I think is the way, as a person just has to be having those conversations and such. But like Robin says, I don't like the dirty looks that a person gets from some of the guests, and that happens, unfortunately, way too often. So Another area that's been kind of interesting, talking to a couple of people who have been going. They're the ones who know everybody in the community, and they're going to quite a few weddings here in the early part of summer. One particular gentleman I was talking to, he's going to 6 weddings, and because he knows I'm a DJ, after last summer and me grilling him every weekend on what the wedding was like and what they remembered from it, what was the most fun part? I'm asking those types of questions to. So now he's paying more attention, and he and I talked for a while today. And I think he said 6 weddings, is that 4 are backyards, and he's like, I don't even know if there's going to be entertainment or anything, but they're in the backyard at somebody's place, and the other 2 are in barn, and the barn ones are. I think he said that they had the barns till 10 o'clock, so they're going to be earlier nights. With that, whether they have entertainment, I'm guessing they have some sort of entertainment or music there. But he was saying that with the outdoor, he knows at least a couple of those backyard weddings where they said that they're just gonna have music like a boombox playing, and that was it. It was basically a backyard. Their biggest part, I think they were going to be doing beanbag. What is it? Cornhole.
Cornhole?
Yeah,
Okay.
they're going to have cornhole tournaments at 2 of them. That's the big thing that they're going to do. The bride and groom are really into that. They've got their own custom cornhole boards, and they're going to have a tournament. And the trend that I've been seeing and feeling is that there just aren't as many opportunities for professional DJs to be out there performing because of people doing things similar to this. And as when he was giving me the report today, there's 6 or 7 events, whatever it was, that I would have never been on the radar for, because what I offer does not fit with that group of people, which in this case consumes up pretty much most of the first half of his summer. And it's like, are times changing to the point of where a person has to as a solo operation, does a person need to be modifying, tweaking, doing something different, or is it just riding out a trend? I don't know.
I don't think that's going to be the case. Although we've talked about the financial piece and how that has some couples dialing back or potentially looking for other options in a way to save. But I think one of the other things that we're seeing in our area, and I will say there's been a couple in that circumstance. So I do have 2 backyard weddings happening between actually the one this weekend and then there's one in June. But one of the things that I think is also happening is some of these couples are kind of getting tired of the barn wedding, right? Because they don't want to do the venue wedding because that's where their parents got married, and they don't want to do the barn wedding because for the past 10 years that's the only type of wedding that they've gone to, or they're tired of the places that are the barns are nice, but they can be stuffy from time to time. Where if you do a 10, at least there's a cross breeze option, right? So I think there's a couple of those pieces that are coming to play with why some couples are opting for that backyard. But I will say this, I really think this is going to be a minor trend, if you will, of going in that other direction. I don't think it's going to be a massive thing. I think what happens is you happen to be for example, that gentleman you were speaking with travels in a certain circle of friends. They tend to think alike, right? So what ends up happening is that, they all kind of follow that same plan of, oh, I'm doing a backyard wedding. Oh, so am I. Because that's kind of that mentality. Now,
Sure.
I think if you were to talk to, 10 different people, and they all weren't going to happen to be to the same wedding, and you were seeing that, I think that would be a different indication of whether this is a new potential trend. I do think there is some concern with the monetary thing, but I also know that some of them, at least a couple in my area, this one weekend in particular, they mentioned they didn't end up saving as much as they thought they were going to. So they rented the tent, till they rented the tables, till they did all the things that they were going to do. They didn't really end up that much in advance of the other one.
Right.
But this did allow them to have exactly what they wanted without any restrictions because it's on their property.
Yeah, and I think the area in that's why some of the why they do the things is, well, we can provide our alcohol. We just have to buy it and then have somebody pour. We don't have to worry about insurances or paying people or whatever, and $3 or $4 or $5 a drink. We just whatever. We go to Sam's Club and load up type of thing. So yeah, there's definitely some aspects, but it'll be interesting, to see the trend, the wedding venues. I looking at a couple of them and I checked their schedules, and they're not, they're just where they used to have 3, they may have one for the week, or they've picked up, they're doing a something else. They've got entertainment coming in. They've got a one-man band playing. And it's like, well, what? How went from 300 people, 400 people weddings to now a one-man band playing in a lounge and hoping to draw enough people to pay the bills for the night. Times have changed.
But again, I wonder, but is that also partially due to the fact that the number of options that our couples have? Like that was the other thing. You
Yeah.
go back, I'll say, let's go back even just 10 years. The number of venues that were in our area was maybe a third of what we got now, and because of all the barns that have shot up, or the barns that were just getting started in 2015 and starting to really ramp it up. And I really think that has kind of created those normal 3 wedding in a weekend venues to look for that other entertainment. And some of them even got to, I think, to the point where they priced themselves out. Like that was one of the things that one of our local ones did. It's a barn, but it's other than the exterior, you would not call this a barn, right? Like
Right.
this thing looks immaculate inside. It's temperature controlled, everything else. But I think they got to a point where financially it became such a high thing, and it was for a while it was the status symbol thing. But I think it's gotten to a point where it's just like, well, we can't really dial back, and so we're going to hold, but they're not pulling the numbers because it is so expensive, because it has become so expensive. And I'm sure some of their costs have gone up, which has caused them to raise even more. And so therefore you have the other piece there. Yeah, I think there's just a little bit of a difference. And of course, Day also mentions, right, like, the people that he's talked to, numbers just across the board are down. So that might also be, why you're seeing some of those venues that had 3 are now looking for other options.
Well, and your numbers of what it was and what it is today. I'm just thinking back to when Lori and I, when we got married, within 10 miles of us, there were three places you could have had a wedding dance at that time. Now, those 3 places still exist. There's 2 community centers that now would do dances within that, and there's 2 barns. So we've gone from 3 to 7 potential places that you could have a dance of some sort. So yeah, that's only here, and there's more barns and more things that have popped up around the areas. So yeah, it's definitely a real part of that equation. Crazy stuff. I tell you, crazy stuff. Let's see. What else was there? There was something else I was thinking of earlier, of chatting with. So next week, MJ is coming in. MJ is going to be on the first show, actually, because he wanted to talk about some AI things. Because have you gotten a chance to watch his little AI presentation?
I haven't.
So
I don't think I've even seen it.
So basically, it's him in his studio, and AI has animated it, captured his voice. So he has typed up this script and put it into the thing, and it has generated his voice saying these words, and has put the video to that. So you're looking at it, and it sounds much better than it would have sounded a couple of years ago. They've gotten way better with that. But you can start to see some of the little things that's captured video wise, and some of the gestures and such are repeated quite often. But it's pretty impressive, especially, like MJ had talked about, is he can go and turn out 10, 15 typed up scripts for content, but to sit and shoot them and make sure he gets it right, and that to make sure his inflection and everything is the part that just was really difficult, which, as someone who has done videos, that is. But when he can just drop scripts in and run it and say, yep, that looks good. And that's just one of the areas in which he, for some of us, we use the AI world for really important things. I'll just send you the picture here for one of the really important things that I used. Where is it? Because AI has there, because now you can pop it up and share that. This is why AI has been why they designed this.
Oh yes, I remember you.
Yeah. There's a lot of good things. It can help create healthy things, but this is really what it's all about. When you can create an action figure of yourself, think of the potential income potential for that. But yes, that's the kind of stuff.
I'm just gonna couple things, John, just so you know, it's not gonna totally take you away. When they can't spell priority without making it priorify, and mail, is that an E on the end of mail? Your name's not spelled right.
There's some things. Yeah, you don't want AI
this
doing.
Is the Temu. This is the Temu version of your action figure, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Sheen actually. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it was all done by the same folks, but yeah, I had taken and on Photoshop and cleaned up some of the things, but yeah, it's not a perfect science yet. So yeah, that'll be MJ next week.
So I mean, there's a couple of people, AI scares you, and I get that, and trust me, there I see enough of it in my day job, right? As teaching, unfortunately, we have a generation that uses it far more than any other aid that I've run into, and with a greater percentage of people that are turning to it for some things. But there are a lot of things that you can do just to kind of help yourself. So I view myself in a creative light in some aspects. MJ and I talk differently about this. And the way he views creativity, he would say that I'm creative. I have a hard time calling myself that. I become too logical from time to time.
Sure.
So when it comes to something as simple as designing lights, right? So this is something that I wanted to do for a while, is my up lights around the room, right? I want them to go to different patterns. And outside of this flashing through red, green, blue, amber, white, red, green, like I wanted to be able to have some other options that it could go to, some other patterns to create. But my mind was just kind of like, I don't know what might look good. Don't know what might work with that. See, MJ's even watching apparently. So thank you, MJ. But one of the things that I did was I dropped it in. Create a light scene of a pattern of 8 colors. Boom, gave it to me. Create another one to high energy music. Boom. Give me another one for more mellow tones. I came up with probably 20 different patterns. And now it was just like, okay, here's how I match that shade. Here's how I match that shade. I can match that shade with here. And I was able to program all this. So I had now these different pieces that I could use. And then I can, evaluate, but just to kind of go, will that look good following that pattern? To start there, I couldn't. I just couldn't get my brain to go in that direction. So I needed something to start, and then I can work with and create and go from there.
So Dan, your day job is a math teacher, and yes. I believe you probably early on the whole calculator, kids using calculators in the classroom was still being discussed and such. And the idea behind it was in when I was getting into that is in the elementary is that we're not going to teach the kids how to use a calculator until they're way older, because they're not always going to have a calculator, and we want them to be able to think on their own and such. How does this differ, or is it similar in the using a calculator for math?
So there's some similarities, there's some differences. So the biggest similarity would be, I would say one of the things that's a similarity, right? Like if I wanted to do 5 times 327, right? I could crank that out by hand, but yeah, I can grab a calculator, I can put it in, and it's going to spit it out. And for the most part, I would know to multiply those two numbers together. The problem that we're having is you had to have some type of number sense in order to put it into a calculator to get the answer that you're looking for, right? Like the calculator is only as smart as the person putting it in, right? So you had to know what you were putting into the calculator to make it work. And so I think that's why a lot of teachers didn't want to go the calculator route until you had some number sense, right? You had to learn that part first, usually in the beginning of every year, and then we get the calculators out, and the rest of the year we can work with them. Now, especially with AI and the way that it's gone, they don't even I mean, they take a picture. They take a picture of the problem and they copy down what it spits out. They have to have they could do a calculus problem tomorrow without ever having any understanding of even how what two apples and two other apples are going to make four apples.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no concept of the answer, whether it's correct or whether it's not. So where education's going, and I know that's not what we're talking about today, but where education's going to have to go is being able to find a way that students will take those answers and be able to evaluate them and work with them to have an understanding of whether that answer even makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
because it doesn't always give the right answer
Oh, for sure.
for multiple different reasons. But what I think is happening anymore, or what we're running into, is at least within education, is people are just taking something, putting it into AI, copying it verbatim, whatever it says, even sometimes the prompts that say, that was a great question.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and spitting it out, which means that there's no concept really of what's happening.
So really, you're saying that understanding theory behind is going to be more important as we go forward than actually having the skills to know how to divide in long division.
Right. Yeah. I mean, when we did the calculator, right, that was the idea
There was,
of
yeah.
putting it in, right? If, for example, even subtraction, right? If I take 7 and subtract 5, I get 2. If I do 5 and subtract 7, I get -2. If you put them in the wrong order into the calculator, you're going to get an answer. Doesn't mean it's the right one.
Mm-hmm.
And so having that theory, having that understanding is going to be important. And I think as we translate this over to what we do as DJs, you know, yeah, I mean, AI can take, and we've talked about this, and MJ talked about this before, where it's going to be able to come take a camera, read what's spitting out in people's phones, and be able to create the perfect playlist. So if we're on that other end of it, or even if we take that playlist that some Johnny, I think, referenced using it for playlists, we need to then evaluate. We need
Mm-hmm.
to be able to understand, like, okay, this is what it spit out, but there's biases
Oh, yeah.
in AI, which, whether you realize it or not, there is huge bias that's in AI. And even down to the country that developed the AI can have a bias put in to what it spits out to you. So any answer that we get needs to be able to take that theory piece of it, that understanding piece of it, that human element, to say, okay, I understand what you're giving me. Now let me take this, and how can I work with it? What can I use it for? How can I tweak it? How can I make it fit? How can I put my touch that makes this me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even kind of to that same idea, right? Used to be, way back in the day, your music collection set you apart, right?
Yep.
I had music that the other people didn't have. And then we went digital. Everybody had the same music. So what'd you have to do? You had to create a different way to make yourself. And you might say, well, it's how I put my music together. Well, now AI's got a way to put the music together. So how are you going to make yourself different? How are you going to make yourself stand out? Um, there's going to have to be a different piece to that puzzle that's going to make you be you, and be hireable.
And that sounds like a future show. How to make yourself stand out from AI. music playback. Da-da-da. Sounds like we need Cubbie for that one.
I think we do.
Probably do.
Because Cubbie, I'm telling you, he uses AI all the time.
Yeah, sure. This is the guy that, still, no, he, one ringy dingy, two ringy dingy, that's. He knows how to use his phone. He's got that down.
He does.
He does.
He does.
How to stand out. Yeah,
you better copy because you'll forget it.
I was just gonna say, you know what? That's actually not a bad topic. Okay, I'm gonna put that down in the notes. Hey, our time is up. DJNTV.com/chill. The crew will be in there hanging out and doing a little recording tonight, and then having some fun chatting throughout the evening. Tomorrow night we've got we're going to be talking in the first hour. That's 7 and 8 o'clock Eastern time frame. We're going to be talking clubs and remixes. Digging into that for the first show, and then Ben's coming in, and we are talking about. I think Ben was going to go into some detail on outdoor events and keeping our gear clean. Is what I think we're working on for tomorrow night. Ben had some new ideas and such, and a few new gadgets, I believe, that we're going to dig into with tomorrow night's show, and then Wednesday it's conference track meet, so I am gone all day on Wednesday. Literally, no post office, no disc jockey news stuff, and I'm spending the day getting sunburned at a track somewhere. So it'll be great.
It's my Thursday, so hey, I feel you.
Yeah.
I feel your pain.
Yeah, good stuff. Good time of year. Alrighty, take us home, Dan.
All right, well, on that note, thank you, everybody. Whether you were chiming in the chat or whether you're just watching from a distance or whether you're catching us on the replay, we appreciate you, because without you, it's John and I talking to AI, and it just does not work the same. So have yourself a great one. We'll see y'all next time. Bye, everybody.